Greetings Exiles, I'm CodRayZeal, and joining me today as always are Sir Reginald Amadeus Fortescue III and Frank. Say hi guys.
Hi.
And today I'm just going to go over my take on a low-life Righteous Fire build. Now this league has brought about a lot of interesting things for Righteous Fire, so it was very difficult to settle down to one kind of Righteous Fire. Prior to this I did another variant of the Deity in Ring of Fire, as well as a Necromancer that uses the Scourge Claw and the Blood Offering chest. And maybe I'll go over that later, as it is a little bit faster for clearing than this one. But this one was pretty much designed to take on the Shaper after my Dark Pact totems just didn't cut it damage wise. So I'm just going to go over the gear, and hopefully I'll show you guys a little bit of gameplay at the end of the video. Or during this, I'm not sure. So, going over our gear, the thing that what made me want to start one of these mana energy shield based Righteous Fire builds was the Memory Vault Praetor Crown, which drops from one of the Elder Guardians. Now this gives you a lot of mana, quite a decent amount of energy shield, and at the same time it gives you armor based on your reserved mana, which is nice with a Guardian that's not building any life into their build. So this Helm is responsible for a great deal of my armor. Right now I'm sitting at 17,000 armor, most of which is from the Memory Vault because I don't have much life to get it from the Guardian's Ascendancy passive. Next up, I managed to acquire the Scepter. The base cost me around 2 Exalts. I then crafted damage over time onto it, as well as exalted that 5% increased fire damage.
That's a lot of damage!
And since it's got the elemental focus support, I've actually decided to link my Scorching Ray in here too. So all in all, this is a really fantastic scepter, and the Shaper and Elder items have really made it possible to stretch the damage of Righteous Fire. No longer is Storiani's Catalyst your endgame weapon, but more your transitional early to mid game weapon. I'm using a standard Rise of the Phoenix shield. I should probably get one with less life, but it hasn't really affected me negatively. And the reason I'm using this over an energy shield based shield or something similar is because defensively this just felt the strongest when I was mapping and when I was fighting the Shaper and whatnot. It just felt great to use Rise of the Phoenix. So there it remains. For my amulet, I'm using a standard marble amulet, which I alt-regaled for increased energy shield, intelligence, and then I regaled the all attributes, which was great because there's a dexterity issue with these kinds of builds. My most important ring is a +3 level of socketed gems ring that also has some dexterity and mana. And in this we socket our Purity of Fire, of course, so that we get that 1 additional maximum fire resistance. Chest, Chevron's wrappings. Now, most of the reason I didn't do this build before was because Chevron's wrappings were so expensive. But now it's relatively cheap. I picked this one up for about 1 Exalt and then socketed and linked it. It's worth noting that 6 link is by no means required, and I was actually going for a 3 link before, as shield charge does not need to be linked to your curse on hit. Having just Orb of Storms linked to your curse on hit is perfectly fine. So it's worth taking the 6 link chevrons out of the budget and just, you know, if it happens, it happens. Our Righteous Fire is socketed in some Essence of Delirium crafted gloves. The reason I used the Elder base before starting the crafting was that small chance of getting Frenzy Charge on kill. it seemed like a good idea to me. Now these aren't too spectacular, but they do have mana and a decent amount of energy shield, so I can't complain. Anyone who's crafted with essences of delirium or horror knows that this is kind of what you expect. For my boots I'm using Syntrek, and this is for the main reason that it gives you 30% movement speed and 190 energy shield, which is quite difficult on rare boots. And in addition to that, it also gives us some intelligence, which equates to about 5% increased energy shield, and dexterity, which again helps us with that dexterity requirement. Next, my belt. I'm using a Stygian Vice, which is Shaper influenced. And the reason for this is because of that 20% increased energy shield recovery rate. And that's pretty much the only important thing that's on this belt right now, but I ran a little low on wealth, and I just recently changed from using the unique Stygian Vice. Darkness Enthroned, I think. Yes, Darkness Enthroned. Now inside the Darkness Enthroned I was using two jewels like this. 40 to maximum energy shield, 40 to maximum mana, and onslaught on kill. Now putting two of these into the Darkness Enthroned gave me about 700 energy shield, and additionally it gave me about 20% chance to gain onslaught on kill. So pretty much during mapping having onslaught all the time really boosted my clear speed. My other ring is an opal ring that I put one low Essence of Anger onto, and it turned out like this, so I'm very unlikely to replace it going forward. For flasks, I'm using a Basalt Flask just to top off my physical damage reduction, as this stacks on top of whatever damage my armor is reducing. Next, I'm using a Sulfur Flask with freeze immunity, since I don't really have proper freeze immunity in this build, so this seemed like the most logical place to get it. I'm using a Ruby Flask with bleed immunity. That way when I see myself degenerating, I pop the Ruby Flask, and whether the degen is caused by bleed or by something else, at least I regenerate a little bit faster. I'm then using a Silver Flask with curse removal, pretty much because it has curse removal on it, and there are those times where there's nothing around for you to get onslaught on kill from. And then I'm using a Stipknight Flask with immunity to poison, because one of the new Elder Guardians is pretty bad with their poison damage, so I kind of just left it on there in case there's other issues with poison. As for the links, for our Righteous Fire, it's linked with Elemental Focus, Burning Damage, an increased area of effect, and concentrated effect, which I keep in my inventory and mainly only use when I'm fighting red map Elder Guardians, a red map Elder, or the Shaper or his minions. In my boots I have Summon Stone Golem, Rallying Cry, and an Immortal Call cast when damage taken setup. I used Vorici to make 4 red sockets on these boots. It would probably be more practical to put your red gems in the memory vault, but I had already had 3 red sockets in these boots by the time I started realizing I was going to be using the cast when damage taken setup, so I just put it in there. In my helm right now I have Flame Dash, which is completely unrelated to the Enlighten, Purity of Lightning and Purity of Ice that I have in the helm, and this pretty much brings me to 99% reservation, along with the Purity of Fire. In my shield I have Discipline, linked with Blood Magic, and clarity. Now the level of clarity will depend on how much free life you have available. Ideally you want as little free life as possible while staying above 1, obviously. I find that putting clarity on my life really helps, since when I level, I can level clarity whether I have enough mana or just keep it at the same level if I don't have enough mana to upgrade it. In my chest I have shield charge linked with fortify and faster attacks, and Orb of Storms linked with curse on hit and flammability. Now because this is 6 linked, my shield charge also gains the curse on hit, but this is by no means necessary. So that is the gear and gems and whatnot. So now I'm just going to give you guys some gameplay to check out, and I'm also going to put a path of building link in the description. It's worth pointing out that this build does fantastic against the Shaper, and I was actually able to do it deathless on one of my streams. I'll try and put a link to that in the description as well. And with that said, I apologize for the unedited raw footage style, but my free time has been otherwise consumed at the moment. But I thought since this build is so wonderful that I would like to share it with you guys, so here it is. So from myself, Sir Reginald Amadeus Fortescue III, and Frank, we'd like to say good luck and stay juicy.
You must be reshaped. Must have time to gather. Ultimate chaos.
Come to me.
I definitely think it's safer to walk back to him after he does that, because otherwise he throws his balls everywhere.
Embrace my mystery.
They're coming through.
Gaze into the abyss.
To me, Exile, quickly.
Gaze into the abyss. Gaze into the abyss.
They're coming through. To me, Exile, quickly.
Imperfect.
That helped. Don't know why I stopped and killed that.
The end is the beginning. It must be perfect.
For who? Father, it's me.
Everything short of perfection is irrelevant. Embraced by misery. Gaze into the abyss. Ultimate chaos.
Come to me. We need to close this.
Embraced by misery. Embraced by misery. Ultimate chaos. Embraced by misery.
There we go. And I got a flask.